Except for Big Red football games, the single biggest athletic event to take place in Nebraska each year has to be the State Boys Basketball Tournament. And of all the drama created by the March Madness, the greatest amount of excitement and hysteria in the past decade had to have been generated in the 1971 Class A finals between Lincoln East and Papillion. The score was tied and 2 seconds remained in regulation. After a timeout, East would get the ball in backcourt 90 feet from the basket. The color commentator was Nebraska assistant basketball coach Mo Iba, and at the play-by-play mic was Bud Sobel.
They're going to try to fling it up the floor. Ball's going to toss it in. Throws it up the floor. Overthrows Koppel. It almost goes at Samuelson. The Koppel shoots. Scores! Koppel throws in a 15-footer and scores at the gun, and East wins the game. Koppel threw it in as he picked the ball up and one-handed shoveled it in at the gun. Lincoln East wins the state title. What a play. What a shot. He couldn't do it again if he did it in 100 years.
It was the classic ending to what many would consider not only the game of the decade, but perhaps of tournament history. East had record-setting scorer Kent Reckaway. Papillion had 7-footer Mike Heck, and the old Coliseum was rocking as the two teams played to a 72-all deadlock when time was about to expire and the stage was set.
It was questionable if in overtime whether we could have hung in there or not. But anyway, we set up a pick play at half court for Kent Reckaway, and Scott Koppel set the pick. Jack Ball had the ball out of bounds, and of course it was handed to him by the official, so he could not move from that position. And we had Rick Samuelson on down court, and I think Rob Ogden was to the side. Anyway, we set the pick, and as usual, it didn't work, and I think Jack threw the ball over the top of his head. And Rick Samuelson, I think, made a super big play, diving for the ball out of bounds, which as soon as he touched it, the clock started. Threw the ball back on the court, and I think Scott Koppel, going from the position where he had set the pick, picked the ball up in a sweeping motion and kind of shot the ball from the hip-like position. And, the ball went in, and you had to look and, with amazement if the thing was good or not. And that's the first thing I asked, if it was good. I guess you'd have to say it's a lot of luck involved, but I think that there's some skill things involved there, too.
Koppel is now a law student in Virginia.
I remember just, setting up a play where he was trying to get the ball to Reckaway, and I believe Ogden was going to set a pick and get Reckaway open, and Jack was taking the ball out. Anyway, when we ran the play, it didn't come off like that, and I just remember thinking when the ball was thrown in, and it started kind of sailing up over my head. I really wasn't sure if it was thrown to me or not, but I thought, oh my God, it's going to go out of bounds and they're going to get the ball down into their own basket. But then when Samuelson made that leap out of bounds and threw it back in, I just happened to be running along there, and it was just luck that I happened to scoop it up and put it in. But that's basically how it was.
What went through your mind when you saw it going through the nets?
Well, when it just left my hand, I thought it's right on target, but it's too flat. It's going to hit the rim and bounce right back out. And then when it went in, I remember a couple guys from Papillion kind of fell down on the court, and I just remember running over and jumping around. That's about it.
Samuelson is now an optician in Omaha.
All I could remember or see was, the ball's going out of bounds. I had to get it back into bounds, so I just tried the best way I could to get it back in the game.
Would you say that it's the most exciting play that you've ever been involved with in basketball?
Oh, sure. Yeah, by far.
Ball is now the boys' basketball coach at Wilbur Claytonia.
I've been around a lot of exciting finishes when I played high school, my junior year and in my senior year, and that was by far the most. About the only thing that would compare would be this year as a coach. The tables were reversed. Instead of being the hero, I got a chance to play the GOAT, and boy, I didn't like that role. We were playing Tri-County in a district game, and they're our season rival, and they had beaten us earlier in the year by 15. We got the ball and ran it down to 9 seconds to try and set up a play on an inbounds. And doggone it, but the coach drew up the wrong play, and we threw the ball in, and we dropped it, and they picked it up and went the length of the floor and beat us. I tell you, I just, from going to one extreme to the other, I had an instant flashback to Mike Heck falling down on the floor after that Papillion game, and that's exactly what I felt like doing.
Whether the shot got off in the 2 seconds that remained has never really been questioned, but whether 5 seconds elapsed from the time the official handed the ball to Jack Ball to when Samuelson touched it is a valid question. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A 5-second call would have given Papillion the ball with just those 2 seconds left. One of the referees for that game was Ken Fisher, and I asked him about the call.
Obviously, I didn't call a 5-second. I hope that the call was right. I hope that the out-of-bounds call was proper, and I hope that we got the ball in play in the 5 seconds. And I'd been refereeing a long time, and I'm sure that I was counting the thing off, and it was proper, and I certainly hope it was anyway.
And Randy York of the Lincoln Journal and Star points out another reason why the play of the decade might never have happened.
Paul Forts will deny it to this day, but he was standing on his side of the Coliseum, and people could not get in there. There were probably 2,000 or 3,000 people that could not get in that game because they were jam-packed. But right before Jack Ball got the ball handed out to him out of bounds, Paul Forts was trying to call timeout. He almost ruined the greatest play in state tournament history.
At the time, Condi Sargent was the prep writer for the Omaha World Herald, and he had the 3 players try to reconstruct the play the following Monday in the East High gym.
You know, the toughest thing that we had, as I recall, to do was to get the pass from Jack Ball across the way so that Samuelson was kicking the thing back over his head. In reality, that was the hardest thing. Several of the passes he was not able to get his hands on and flip backwards so that Koppel could take his shot on the run.
How many times did it take him to do it?
17, on number 17, we got it in the hole, which really surprised me. I figured, you know, I might have been figuring for $1 million, but the 17th time we made it, and amazingly enough, almost every time that Scott got the ball to shoot it, it was pretty close to the hole. It was really kind of a thrill to see the ball come so close.
Was it the most exciting finish you've ever seen to a basketball game?
Most dramatic finish to a state tournament. I'm sure there have been a lot of plays just as wild that have won games, but for a state tournament final, Class A, that baby was it.
It'll be tough to top, but as a new decade of state tournaments begins, similar thrills are sure to result, just as they have today and will continue to tonight, when we return after this timeout.
Lincoln East wins the state title. What a play. What a shot. He couldn't do it again if he did it in 100 years.